Somebody is doing the most when it comes to trying to stop someone else's transformation. We've got 6 of spikes in reverse and 10 of spikes upright. And spikes are swords in the Storyteller's deck. And the last 2 readings have both ended on the 10 of swords in reverse. And so I wanted to explore 10 of swords a little bit more to see what are these burdens that someone is trying to put on this Aquarian energy. And they don't necessarily need to be an Aquarius. It could just be that like personality type. Someone who has a strong expression of that in their chart. Maybe they have an Aquarius stellium. Or maybe they're just the eccentric weirdo in the group, you know? Nobody quite gets them. But whatever this person or persons issue with the Aquarian energy is, it's very persistent and irritating. And when I was looking for the 10 of swords in this deck, it was upright when I found it. So something's changed in between the last 2 readings. There's a lot of celestial busyness right now. Like we just went into Saturn retrograde and the nodes just changed, if I'm not mistaken. But this was the second card in the deck when I flipped it over, and this was the first. So right there at the surface, ready to be explored. And the 6 of spikes, 6 of swords, that's a card of travel. And in reverse, it's preventing travel, preventing forward motion, preventing somebody from going on their path. In this case, though, there's a werewolf on this card. So, preventing somebody's transformation. I don't know what that means. We're going to get into it a little bit more. And I thought the werewolf metaphor was interesting with the Aquarius full moon tomorrow, I think that is. So let's get some terms out. See if we can get a little more info about who has an issue with the Aquarian. What is the deal? A little more letters. So let's see. And this could be, he was recently feeling that cipher energy. So A-O. Hello, little one. Hello. Where's your friend? Where's your squirrel friend? A-O-Z. Sounds like AOC. Oh, the blank one. Chaos energy. Creative energy. F. E. N. Another A. F. R. F, F, R. E. And this again, E, E, G. Those are not fun. They're very bright. G-A. Georgia? Something about Georgia? U-T? Utah? So states? Somebody is referencing traveling. Maybe those states are of importance to you in some way? A-O. Oh, again. A-O-A-O. Does that mean something? An E. A. E. S. And I. AC. AOE. It's interesting. These are just kind of a little bit off. Like AOZ, AOE, they sound similar to AOC, so it's something that is slightly off. Hard to notice. It's like those little whispers from your intuition, from your gut that you ignore. You get a weird feeling about somebody and then you just kind of blow it off, and then later you're like, oh yeah, I see. I see what that was about. Net, far, ray. I think I've got the letters for Goetia. There's that EEE. And EEG seems significant. Go. So a lot of travel references. What charms do we have? There's, looks like a ginkgo leaf. Supplements. Something about supplements. Oh, 2 seahorse. Mirroring energy again. And this has been coming up a lot. Like twins, mirroring. Someone trying to... It's like when I think of catfishing, what first comes to mind is like someone trying to catfish you. Oh, AI. Is someone trying to use your likeness for catfishing? Because trying to stop your forward movement, I mean, I'm going with this kind of theme of like coercive control, right as that clock chimes, because anybody trying to impede on somebody else's free will, like, are they trying to make a narrative stick because you aren't actually like what they've described you to be? Now they're utilizing AI or something like that to try and make something believable? I don't know. And from what I've heard, tattoos make AI harder to keep up with you, like natural body movements and things like that, so maybe it's an excuse to get more ink. We've got some leaves here. And more of that London Bridge is falling down, that song, that nursery rhyme. And the last time I brought that up, it was like the day after that. I can't remember which reading it was, but it was doing charms like this too. I hadn't listened or watched the music video for Crawl by In This Moment yet, and there's a little homage to that nursery rhyme. The London Bridge is falling down. It's creepy in that song. I really like it. I think this looks like a pie with a slice taken out. They want your slice of the pie? Or they want a slice of the pie that sounds like they've got no business even being at that table. I don't know why they think if you're trying to interfere with your transformation that they deserve a seat at your table. That's weird. 2 scarecrows though. More of that mirroring, twinning energy. And 2 pumpkins, which has become a symbol of transformation for me. Cinderella. So 2 pumpkins. And it's got a candle pop on that. All these pairs, one's smaller than the other. There's a size difference, and it reminded me, I got a little pyromancy at the beginning of this reading, because when I'm trying to get the candle to stick in there, I melt the bottom off of the little tea light candle, and a drip of the wax extinguished the wick. So it was like re-emphasizing that somebody is trying to interfere, extinguish your transformation. I don't know what this is about. And we've got a porcupine with an apple and a leaf. Or maybe that's a hedgehog. Looks like a hedgehog. And more leaves. Just random little branch. So another, like, something slightly off. And maybe that's a reference to AI. Like, something slightly off, because it's unnerving, the pace at which it's developed and how hard some things are to recognize. That, like, is that AI? And a lot of it has to do with the context in which they're using it. If they're not using it in, like, a fantastical way for things that are believable, that's where it really starts to make me nervous. Because no, a cat is not high-fiving another cat. That one's pretty obvious. So travel, twinning, mirroring. So let's see. Start getting some cards out. On the dice roll, I got 12th house, Pisces, and Venus. So emphasis on Pisces there. And in the last reading, Leo was emphasized too, with Leo and the Sun. So maybe this has something to do with a Leo and a Pisces. Which, if you're using that as an identifier, that would generally refer to somebody's sun or rising sign. I prefer to think of it as areas of your chart that might be of interest. If somebody's trying to interfere with, like, your second house or your Venus, if they don't want you to get into relationships for some reason, just because they're a miserable human being and they're trying to get other people to join their company. So what about the 6 and 10 of spikes? Tell me more. We got the horary deck out here, the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. So I want to know what parts of your chart might be of interest. So this is some very persistent energy. Flirtation and fortune. Flirtation is in reverse. Venus in Sagittarius and Sun in Leo. I think she's covered by that scarf. So they don't want you flirting with fortune. Maybe that reference to that slice of the pie. They don't want you to get your slice of the pie. Which, what is this person's problem? It's like you probably have some areas in your own life that are falling apart because you're paying so much attention to this person. And I think this might be a cross-watcher reading just because the way that I'm talking. Apply the perspective, first, second, third, whichever, how it applies. But somebody that doesn't want maybe someone to feel like they have any opportunities or anything. Because the imagery on these cards, this the white woman, the ghostly woman on the 10 of Swords, it's kind of a grim metaphor. Because she's an omen for ill events, bad things happening. But this card specifically references a Canadian woman who self-deleted. I think she lost her fiance to war, something like that, or an accident, something or other. And then she took her life at a waterfall that they used to, like, rendezvous at. And with coercive control, and don't make this fit if it doesn't, and so trigger warning, but sometimes the desired outcome of somebody coercively controlling another is for them to self-delete. I saw, was it Dr. Karen Mitchell? She had mentioned that in her episode, or podcast episode on the Women of Impact podcast, that some of the psychopaths that she had, I don't know if she interviewed or researched, but they were taking lives without ever getting their hands dirty. It was like the influence of controlling their finances, controlling their opportunities, post-separation abuse, things like that. And again, what is this person's problem? Because you got to be a real lowlife to not only interfere with someone's life, but be hoping that they self-delete. Like, it's giving, I don't know, supervillain vibes, but without the layer. It's just like somebody in their home drinking, stewing over somebody else that, like, can't get over it, can't move on with their life. Like, get over yourself. So what about this flirtation of fortune? Like, when I was in middle school, that popped out right as I said that. So maybe something about that time period. Saturn in Scorpio. Inheritance came out reversed. But in middle school, there was a kid who got pretty viciously bullied. And there was like a social club, fan club, if you will. I think it was on Facebook or MySpace or something. It was the We Hate This Person fan club. And I think they took a poll on there that person that they all collectively hated for a reason I am unable to discern. They took a poll that they should take their life. It was vicious and it was brutal. And he was such a nice kid. Like, I couldn't figure out, like, what their problem was. Like, he's a little awkward. Like, a little socially awkward, but that's not a reason to dogpile on someone. Like, what? I guess what I see reflected in behavior like that is those are people, those kids have parents who are also bullies, who might not only be bullying them, but this would be like a workplace bully. Somebody who's a bully in the office or something, because people like to carry on with this idea of, like, hang it at the door, hang your personal stuff at the door whenever you come to work, school, whatever. That delineation and compartmentalization, what it does is it creates hiding spots, blind spots for abuse to thrive, because we forget that the same person that's bullying in the office, at school, whatever, they go other places with that same bullying mindset. They don't hang it up at the door when they go to a different place. It's, I don't know, like a refusal to look at the big picture. And the big picture, it's also discouraged to look at. Like, I've been criticized so many times for, like, my macro type thinking. And the only issue that I can find with it is that I can see the problem. That I can see what's happening. Why would macro thinking be bad? But so inheritance in the reverse, they don't want you to get your inheritance? That could be literal, that could be a metaphor, that could be maybe you've done a bunch of work on something and it's time for, I don't know, results, reward, and they don't want you to have that. Something Saturnian. So what about this? Cobweb? Let's see the other one. Cobweb and Key, and both are in reverse. Protected from negative forces beyond your control, successful outcomes to your problems. So they don't want you to be protected from things outside of your control? That's messed up. I mean, this person sounds pretty messed up in general. And they don't want you to have success to their problems. Are they the problem? Is that why they don't want you to have success? Like, they've done something to you and they don't want you to have success because they don't want to deal with accountability. Deal with it. Literally not anybody else's problem but theirs, but they've probably made it like a war path, because the antagonistic personality is anything and everything to avoid accountability. Separation and exposure can be extremely dangerous junctures when it comes to dealing with an antagonistic personality. Like, you see all these headlines of like, oh, he just snapped and this and that. No, he didn't. There was a bunch of behaviors leading up that were indicators that this was coming. Probably behaviors that the woman reported, and that is why she inadvertently was failed and lost her life. Because how many women come forward every day and just get blown off, and it gets excused with, oh, that's just how he is. He doesn't know how to show affection. Unlearn what you need to unlearn and learn what you need to learn. A lot of us have had traumatic childhoods, traumatic upbringings, but we don't go on war paths when it comes to accountability. There's so many excuses from the same type of people that would look down their nose when you provide a reason, like you, I don't know, need an accommodation or something, and they look down on that. But then when the tables are turned and it's time for accountability for their behavior, nope, they are a victim. They've been the victim the whole time. Poor little lamb. Meanwhile, they've been conspiring against someone to the point where they're doing things to try and get them to self-delete. 4-leaf clover. Great good fortune. A lot of references to fortune, and it came out sideways. So financial abuse, and we just saw that a couple readings ago, I think. Someone really determinedly trying to mess with somebody's money to the point that they would self-harm. That's sadistic. And it happens a lot. Like, financial abuse happens all the time. And there's no magical replacement for the mundane stuff, even though we are being failed by the system. So following the recommendations of like domestic violence organizations and such to make the appropriate reports, and if you have to get involved in a legal battle, which is just another burden, more money being tied up in things, one day at a time. But also, if you are a practitioner, warding your birth chart, ward whatever areas that you feel you're not making progress, like your second house, if it has to do with money. Learn about second house, learn about any placements that you have there, because that can, if nothing else, give you like a mindfulness exercise to focus on to help calm the nervous system, because it'll be up and hyper vigilant in a situation like this. So what is the deal around the fortune? Seems like a pretty consistent theme. 7 of Swords, strategery, okay. 8 of Hearts, and Queen of Scepters. Queen of Wands, cover her up. So 7 of Spikes, that is the taking swords from the warring camp so they don't have those available for the battle in the morning. So it's ensuring that you or whoever this resonates with, they don't have what they need to combat this problem. Like, say they're working with, I don't know if this is like a legal issue, if it's escalated to that point. They're working with like a crooked attorney, and they're working on any and every loophole that they can find to dodge accountability for somebody who's obviously guilty. But it's something like that. Strategery. Because the Eight of Hearts, this is the multicolor coat that... Let me get the book for that one. This one's important. Going from the Seven of Spikes to the Eight of Hearts. Joseph's coat of many colors. I was going to call it the Technicolor coat. What was that movie? I don't remember. Of all 11 sons of Jacob, Joseph was his father's favorite. Jacob gifted Joseph a long coat of many colors. His brothers, seeing this beautiful, expensive gift that Joseph loved as a slight against them, hated and plotted to kill him. Instead, they abandoned him in a pit and later sold him to a group of Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, stripping him of his robe and dipping it in goat's blood to convince their father that Joseph had instead been devoured by a wild animal. So they trafficked him? All because they coveted this gift. So this is... like, the way this is coming together, I think it's called like a civil conspiracy. I don't know. Definitely not an attorney. But it's just that's the form that these threads are taking. It's interesting too, in this card, the Seven of Spikes, there's a little lamb that the cat is standing on. And it said the coat was dipped in goat's blood. So something false, a farce, and Queen of Scepters, Queen of Wands, that can be a witchcraft card. So it could be somebody trying to cast a glamour, some sort of illusion. That can also be done through wordsmithing, through like manipulating the perception and things like that. But how nefarious is that? Because if they thought that this person had passed away and really he had been trafficked and needed help, no one would be looking for him. Man, this sounds deranged. And let's hope this is just a fantasy inside someone's head. Someone that needs to be kept far away from people. So what's this fake out? Tell me about the fake out. Intuition. Mercury in Cancer, which it's still in, and it's direct now. And what is that? Whose seal is that? Gabriel? The messenger angel? The voice of revelation? Risk? Saturn in Aries, current placement. And Quarrel, Mars in Cancer. Interesting. A lot of fire and water. Those don't really mix. So Risk and Quarrel. this was a bad idea to engage in. Whatever this campaign against this person, this Ten of Swords campaign, somebody didn't listen to their intuition that this was a high risk to engage in. And I don't think it worked out in their favor. And a big reason I'm saying that is because of Saturn in retrograde. Because this is the celestial moment of, are you sure you did the right thing? We about to find out. We gonna find out. And it might be on display. Because I'm just thinking about that little fan club that those bullies started. They were doing that in the background. They're cowards. They're not even doing this to this person's face. But they'll slander them, they'll defame them. All behind their back? Like, why can't you talk to this person's face? What's the problem? Is it because you're lying? Is it because you're trying to get away with something? Is a narrative completely going to fall apart as soon as people who are involved are in the same room? You know, like triangulation. It's really dependent on a lot of isolation in order to work. Psychic ability, trust your intuition, trust the gut feelings. It's like if you've ever been in a situation where things just feel off and you can't explain it, that's a red flag. It's a red flag that something's going on. Might need to do some additional observation. Just let things play out as they are. Go into observer mode to see what's going on. But what it brought to mind, I have been gaslit so intensely by both my parents that at separate times I legitimately thought they were having memory issues. Like medical issues. And they weren't. I mean, who knows? There's generally trauma in the background of antagonistic personalities. So there could be some like dissociative stuff going on. They weren't taking the steps to go get the help for that, granted. But I didn't have any language, vocabulary at the time to understand what gaslighting is. And it's a real mind F if you don't have an anchor to steady yourself in that storm to try and figure out what the heck is going on. Why do I feel like I'm living in a Twilight Zone episode? That feeling, that is a major red flag that there's something really serious going on, because gaslighting is really subtle. And there's that movie and play about it. I don't think it's called gaslighting. I'm not sure. Horseshoe, good luck, and career in reverse. They don't want you to have luck in your career, more fortune. Are they blocking opportunities? And maybe that's something you need to trust your intuition on. Like, have you been trying to advance in your career and it's just like no matter what you do, you're not getting anywhere? And maybe you're even not getting anywhere on trying to escape. It's like being a prisoner. Horseshoes, maybe you want to get one for above your door? Something like that. It's a common... what word am I looking for? Like hearth magic, home magic, horseshoes, or whatever makes you feel like something lucky. Like if you have a lucky rock that you keep in your pocket, something like that. Something that helps you anchor to that feeling. And maybe, I don't know, my opinion, if you've been put through some sort of bullying campaign, some sort of smear campaign in your career, and they didn't protect you, they didn't do their part when something was obviously happening, one, take them to task for that, with the appropriate reports and things like that, which might inflame some of this, but they had the option to do the right thing and they didn't. They're grown. They are responsible for their choices. This is the wrathful compassion moment. And wrathful compassion is not a very pretty picture in a lot of cases. It's correcting course on people who are being cruel. But if you are failed to be protected, for me, that would change the course in my mind. Like, I would not be trying to preserve this anymore, and I'd be trying to reconcile this. Like, trying to get my justice and GTFO. Because why would I hang around in an environment that allowed me to get hurt? It's about making things right and then being on my way. And maybe that's a transformation that they're trying to prevent, because part of making things right is holding these people accountable. And I mean, yeah, maybe you have the one mastermind at the helm of this, but they all willingly got on the boat. They made their choices. And it's revealing maybe stuff in their shadow about their own prejudice, about how bigoted they really are when they're presented with the opportunity to either do the right thing or dogpile on somebody they just don't like. You can not like somebody and not destroy their life. Like, you can just leave them alone. I don't know why that's so hard. So what about this trusting your intuition? Eight of Coins in reverse. The Moon in reverse. Ooh, and the Tower. Uh-oh. It didn't work. Their little smear campaign. And I don't mean to trivialize anything that anyone is going through, because those are really difficult. Like, my first smear campaigns were at home, because my first bullies were my parents. But Eight of Coins in reverse, that's the Artisan card. That's like somebody didn't master something. And it looks like a ram pretty similar to the one that the cat is stepping on in the Seven of Spikes. So maybe you're the cat. You are the strategist looking at what they were trying to hide. Because this Moon card, I think this might be Little Red Riding Hood. But you can see the wolf trying to eat the silhouette of the girl. And maybe this was the plot. The attempted destruction of the innocent person. Because that's a very innocent archetype, like a little girl. And then the Tower, this is Pandora's box. They should have never done this. One, because it's cruel to put somebody through this. Like, come on now. But now everybody's going to see. Now everyone is going to see their character. Everyone is going to see what is truly in their heart, and it's not a pretty picture. Unleashing all that onto the world. And they deserve to be seen. That might be the challenge of the wrathful compassion. That they deserve their consequences. And I feel like a lot of us kind of back down at the lesson point, because the lesson is their consequences, not when they try to bail out of them. when they realize that there's actually going to be consequences, and then they try and apologize. No, not good enough. We are so far past the point of where an apology would have been accepted. At least that's what I'm gathering from this situation. That if they've gone through all of this in the background, and you've probably noticed changes in behavior, like you might not be explicitly being told, yeah, we want you to self-delete, something like that. Something just disgusting and horrific, and how could anybody ever think that about another person that hasn't done anything, is what I'm gathering. And even if they did, what would justify this type of behavior? It would have to be pretty bad. They deserve to be seen in all their glory for everything they've done. That Pandora's box, they opened it. They had the choice to not, and they did. And I don't have any sympathy, because these are grown adults. Like, that's... It could be a middle school situation, but I tend to read more with the intention of adults. But Gabriel, the voice of revelation, the voice of judgment, there's no more negotiating. Like, people talk about demons, Goetia, and whatnot, but oh, they're scary. And have you thought about angels? Ever? I think they're actually a lot more scary, in my opinion, because they are embodiments of divine will. It's not, they don't really negotiate with humans. Like, if you've seen the Prince of Egypt, the wisp that goes through the town on Passover, that's Abaddon, the destroyer angel. There was no negotiating. Either there was the lamb's blood over the door, or there wasn't. And that's so detached and militant. It's just, there's a job to be done. And in this case, since we have Gabriel, it's judgment. Which brings in the tower. And I think the tower is needed, because if they're operating in an environment that allowed them to do this in the first place, that enabled them to do this in the first place, there are some serious problems that need to be addressed. And not, oh, we'll do better next time. No, a full overhaul, tearing it down to the brass tacks, everything, down to the floor, start over. Because these things can't happen without system structures and social groups that enable it to occur. Because where was the integrity? Where was anybody speaking up, going, like, maybe we shouldn't bully this person into annihilation? Where's the common sense, the critical thinking? So tell me about Pandora's box. What's happening? Because it's not about wanting bad things to happen to anybody else, of course, but what, are you supposed to not have any satisfaction when somebody finally gets their comeuppance for being cruel? I mean, I don't support, like, rubbing people's nose in the dirt about it and whatnot, and they still need to get what they deserve. Because there might be a lot of temptation to bully the bully. And the wrathful compassion, it's about consequences. Ensuring that they not only stop doing this to you, but they never do this to anybody else ever again. Which, if you make reports and you handle things administratively, that kind of opens a door for changes. Achievement. Sun in Capricorn. They didn't achieve what they wanted. It's in reverse. And this has always reminded me, this little bottom panel, of like those compounds in Assassin's Creed where you don't have to stealth. It's a lot easier if you stealth your way through it. But it's one versus many. Dozens upon dozens of people. So maybe you're in a situation like that where it's like a David and Goliath sort of deal. That type of scale. Maybe you want to play some Assassin's Creed? Just chill out. Relax a little bit, because this is probably very stressful. And it's nice to have an escape. And if games aren't your thing, they have books too. Novelizations of the game. Romance. Venus in Taurus. Maybe a partnership coming out of this? Or at least clearing the path for not having your life interrupted. Actually being able to live it. Because I think I saw... what was it? It was a little clip about a woman in Mississippi that the burden was on her to prove adultery in the divorce proceedings, and the separated husband's mistress was like living with them part-time and had met the kid, and that wasn't enough to justify adultery or something? Like, what? It's so painfully obvious that the legal system is the strong arm of abusers, because abusers protect abusers. It's working as intended. It's protecting the people who it's interested in, not the people. It's not equal. And that's one of the reasons that I kind of harp on doing reports and stuff, because I have many issues with the system, but it's the system that we have, and there goes the clock. But if we want to change it, if we want to improve it, we need to understand how it works and, follow the path, I guess. It feels a bit restrictive because in my socialist utopian mind, if the way they're conducting themselves is harming people, that should be enough to, like, we need a review right now. We've got the data. Redo it now. This is an emergency. Not a, we'll get to it in the next voting cycle, and as evidenced by a woman being unalived by either an intimate partner or a family member every 10 minutes. It's an emergency. This needs to be redone now. Unfortunately, government works at the speed of government. So the better case you can make to prove that you've been egregiously harmed, that's more opportunity to bring real change. There's a, I can't remember her name. She's an astronaut. And she was about to go on her first mission, I think, when she got sexually assaulted. And it completely derailed her at the time. But she'd successfully, since then, has passed a law. I don't remember what exactly the law covered, but it had something to do with her case and how it was handled. I wish I could remember her name. And I think she did eventually go on a space mission. So her path was delayed, her transformation was delayed, but it wasn't taken from her. And she was put through more than anybody should ever have to be put through. And she rose to meet her destiny. Now, hear that with a grain of salt, because I don't think people are destined to be abused. I think she was subjected to somebody else's free will, and she fought the battle that was put on her, you know? Decision. Mars in Gemini. And in reverse. So this Pandora's box, maybe all this was done to try and influence the decision, which, I mean, that's a smear campaign, you know, try and influence the perception. But there's a little chessboard on there, so strategy. Anything interesting in here? Not really. Just trying to see if there's any good moves up next. Not so much. There's no check or checkmate pending. That person looks like, almost looks like they're in a wheelchair. I don't know who that's supposed to be. Maybe Athena? Is there something about ableism going on? Ew. Does somebody not want you to have your fortune, your inheritance, because they think you're lesser? It's giving you Gen X. Like, they legitimately think their kind, however their demographic split is better than others. And they have to keep the lessers, the untouchables, down. Gross. That's gross. It's like all the fiscal policies that are so obviously detrimental to people with disabilities that just aren't getting resolved. Yeah, they're all pretty bad. It really keeps disabled people in place, not being able to thrive, and guaranteeing a life of survival rather than thriving, because they're not getting help, appropriate help, proportional help from the system that they're paying taxes into. And I think there's a kind of a dogging on socialism right now, because there's an uptick in who's winning primaries or midterms, stuff like that. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what that word means. It's your tax dollars working for you. Like the library and fire department, universal health care, those are all socialist concepts. I don't understand, like, you want your money drained from you for what? To carpet bomb children that believe differently than you? Is that what I'm hearing? Like, why don't we want our tax dollars working for us? What is the problem? Mice. Discord amongst family or friends. But it's in reverse. So no discord? So maybe as this situation resolves, it resolves some discord. Again, my opinion, you have to make your own choices. I would not be open to rebuilding bridges for people who believed smear campaign stuff about me. Mostly because how easy was it to verify some of this stuff, and they just didn't. They went with the first thing that they're told. It's not that I'm unempathetic to being manipulated. I understand that that's a possibility, and unintentional harm is still harm. They still put you through a great deal of harm by not doing their due diligence. And it's not your burden to carry that. It's not your responsibility to make other people feel better about their failures, especially when they had a negative impact on you. Oh, Rose. I used that word rose, talking about the astronaut lady. Romance is in the air. Bull. Plenty of material things. But in reverse. Again, with this, it's like somebody coming out of the woodwork, confessing their feelings for you all of a sudden. Nope, I don't trust it. Harp. Great happiness. I wonder if that's to, like, keep you away from money somehow? Like a love scammer? Or is this just a desperate attempt by somebody in this group to regain control over you? Try and get you in a relationship? So maybe educate yourself on what love bombing looks like. That mirroring energy. They might be trying to present as the perfect partner to try and get in more trust more quickly than what is truly appropriate for the timeline. Could be also to try and influence the decision. Like, do they really think that's gonna work? Like, they've failed to smear your name, so now they're gonna try and woo you? This sounds like a very vain person. Like somebody who couldn't conceptualize that not only after this, but before this, you were not attracted to them. And it's not, maybe it's personal now, now that they've done all of this, but before it was just, I'm not attracted to you, that's all. But now that you've seen their character, you're horrified, you are disgusted by this person, because how can somebody's treat another person like this? Like, this would be the type of thing that would destroy marriages. Like, if you found out your spouse was doing this to someone, I wouldn't keep that person in my life. No way. That person's dangerous. Because if they're doing it to them, they're probably going to do it to me. I'm, like, up next. And I think that's a false sense of security that people will get with antagonistic personalities, is the love bombing will trick somebody into thinking that they're special. You're not special. You're next. There's always, like, the chess moves. There's a way out being planned. So what about this great happiness? And there does seem to be some emphasis on rose. Maybe you like roses. Maybe you need to get yourself some roses. I'm real partial to, I've been looking at these preserved roses online. It's a company out of New York. And there's probably more than one. But my gripe with roses is they're so expensive. And wasteful. And I like the idea of the preserved ones that last like a year or whatever. And I've seen them on other tarot channels that they've had them up for a really long time. I'm kind of thinking around Halloween time when they have like the vampire colors. We've got 2 of coins. and the mage, the magician in reverse. And that in reverse, that's very manipulative energy. Like somebody trying to throw off your balance. And Kitsune is a shapeshifter. So dealing with somebody that not only has mastered all the suits, the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles, but shapeshifting. Maybe personifying those different suits really seamlessly. And that's bringing back to mind the something slightly off. Because in many decks, you'll see somebody balancing the two of coins around like a lemniscat, the infinity symbol. It's like trying to keep you in a perpetual loop so that you don't transform. Man, when accountability comes down on this person, it's going to come down hard. And apparently it needs to. Not only them, but everybody around them. For who's holding the door open for this to happen. Because people don't abuse in a vacuum. And that, again, the wrathful compassion, I think, can be a little off-putting. More than a little, probably. Because it's being... You can achieve mercilessness without being cruel. Because it's not about being cruel. It's about righting wrongs. And some wrongs are so outrageously wrong, you have to take a really heavy hand to make them right. And to me, no pleas, no cries would be heard, because you knew what you were doing. You don't get to conspire against somebody and then try and play like the, oh, I didn't know game, or even the like, what if they try to go with the insanity plea? Something like that. Like, this would escalate into a really serious legal issue if this is resonating. But going with the insanity plea, no, you demonstrated calculated, meticulous methodology when trying to go after this person. What do you mean insane? Like, yes, insane in that you're a horrendously cruel, or doing horrendously cruel things to somebody who didn't do anything to deserve it. But not in the, like, legal... They weren't aware of their actions. They were. This person, the mage in reverse, they know exactly what they're doing. And they're skilled at it. Can't pretend your way out of that after dogpiling on someone. Is there something significant about dogs? I've said that a lot, that word, dog. Maybe they have a dog? Which doesn't really narrow much down. Queen of Hearts. But it's a cornucopia, and it was in reverse. We're really, really trying to keep you from your harvest. And this, like, what do you do when you are surrounded on all sides and you need money to progress? Because that's how capitalism works. I've mentioned throughout these readings a lot my support of UBI, Universal Basic Income, because that would be a resource that somebody would have access to, that unless this person has access to like bank accounts and whatnot, this could not be cut off. And then there would be a safety net to escape with. And it's good, I think, to have community support. There's lots of different influencers and stuff that try and raise money for different foundations. What's the one I follow? Somewhere to Go Foundation. There's a lot of them. But we should be able to rely on our tax dollars because I'm giving them money. I should have a visible, discernible, tangible output to my life because there's money coming out of my check. That's tangible. That's very discernible to me that I'm losing a lot of money to that and I'm not getting benefits back out. But they still take my money. And I think that's the plight of many a marginalized, that we can see that we pay in just the same, but we don't get the same back out. So how do we break free of this Ten of Swords? Because it seems like going through the storyline, there's consistently something coming up to try and stop your access to fortune. So it's like, are they trying things over and over and over again? Like, give it up. Go live your life. My goodness, aren't there things you have to tend to? Probably. So what? What breaks the cycle? Influence? I just mentioned influencers. Mercury and Libra. And that's Adam and Eve. Something important about Genesis, Lilith. And I mentioned too recently that A Toxic Love Story Netflix documentary. I think that Kafka-esque problem might, like, learning about those mechanics might be helpful in a situation like this, as to how things can go on in the background. There's another Rose too. Something about roses. Rose lineage? I think that has something to do with Mary Magdalene. And maybe if they're blocking your income somehow, so maybe this is somebody or somebody's you work with and they're doing something at work, which that's going to invite a lot of trouble. But maybe you want to try and start doing something on social media, try and monetize to generate some income. You know, try and get multiple streams of income going. And that doesn't mean they won't or couldn't shadow ban you. Because if you have any sort of moonlighting policy at work and you have to tell them about it, and that's somebody who's messing with your life, then you're just being boxed in another way. But it still gives you an outlet for something you enjoy. Because if you're monetizing something you're already doing, it's something that you like, it's something that you're investing time and effort into. There's a lot of benefits to opening up your voice, your confidence. Who cares if it's a small audience? It gives you something in the interim to focus on that can be like that lighthouse in the storm as you go through this. And you can do something to talk about what you've been going through. Maybe you want to do a faceless YouTube channel like I'm doing, and then just leave out identifying information and be able to talk about your story, because it's your story. They don't get to suddenly get all righteous about privacy after hurting you. Like, the audacity. Yeah, assertion. Sun in Aries, and appreciation. Moon in Leo. And there's another cornucopia. Something important about that. Right as the little honk too. Mandala? Mandela effect. There we go. Something slightly off. The fruit of the loom cornucopia. I think that's a well-known Mandela effect. That the version with all the fruits or something in it, or a specific fruit, that logo nearly got wiped off the internet. But there was like one remaining picture or just a few or something. And the millennials and the Gen Xers were arguing like, no, it's always looked like that, and searching for photos. And it took a long time to locate the actual one that was in our mind. It was truly there, but it was an illusion that it was gone. Digital. Something digital. Are they trying to get rid of evidence of what they've done? Good luck with that. The internet's forever, for better or for worse. Because what if they did something on social media, like started some stupid fan club, like we hate this person, and there's going to be records of that. And it's like, what, now you suddenly expect your Fourth Amendment rights to be respected? There's all sorts of loopholes when it comes to social media. So what about... is that a dog? Did I see dog? Dogs. Getting together with friends. Something important about dogs. Is that a cipher? Is that a code word? Maybe. Because I think in online stuff, trying to be sneaky, discreet, whatever, sometimes there will be code words. Like a form of encryption. I think I heard Andrew Bustamante talking about that in reference to like his book, because he had to alter location names and stuff and give them code names. Dog. Said the word dog a bunch of times. What about dogs? Oop. We're going with that. Hammock. Taking a vacation, physically or mentally. Maybe you're emotionally checked out from this. I don't blame you. Tortoise. Slowly but surely getting ahead. Slow and steady wins a race. Gong. An exciting event. Cane, in reverse. Pay attention to your health. Maybe that's what they're ignoring in order to torment you. Bull. Do not back down from opposition. Show strength and fortitude. And lion. Time to act. So maybe that's that Leo reference from the last reading. An exciting event. Maybe you are biding your time until it's time to act. This card says time to act. Because, again, government works at the speed of government, right? If you're involved in a legal situation, one of the things that's used against the vulnerable party is the length of time that these things take to play out. And it'll get extended by appeals and blah, 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 and all these sort of things. And my thinking, my flavor of ethics would be if anybody involved in that knowingly extended the harm to this individual in the interest of, well, they get their appeal even though, like, there's obviously all this evidence and whatnot that they're tormenting this person. they should be held accountable too, because they contributed to this person's harm too. They had the option to step in. They could have given an interim solution or something. But it feels like, I don't know, this person was left completely out on their own because people don't like them. Cool, some justice system. Right? How many of us have that experience? Like, it's pretty obvious that if you are not the center of the marginalization wheel, you're on your own. And it's a problem that needs to be addressed, because they're getting our money in the interim. That's really what grinds my gears. They're still benefiting off me. You're still taking strips off my back. Where's my help? What about me? That's not selfish to be asking questions like, what about me, when you're being directly impacted by something. And I feel like this bull and lion, this is the clash. This is the clash of the titans. So what about that? Temperance. This card comes out almost every time I use this deck. The greed card. So even though it's the temperance card, this fable, this is about a dog. Again, dog. What is with dogs? Dogs of war? I'm trying to think of other phrases. Military dog? People who just follow orders and don't question? I don't know. But they're on their way home from the butcher, and they have their bone with some meat on it, but they catch their reflection on this little footbridge, and in their reflection, it looks like they have a bigger bone. And so they dive in to try and go after this other dog and end up losing their spoils because they went after themselves. So one of those cautionary tales of greed. Because when you've been going through financial difficulties, like persistent financial difficulties, it can be really difficult to find that gratitude, because it can feel really dismissive, flippant of your situation, when people will be like, well, be grateful for what you have. There are other people praying for your problems. I'm still having problems, though. It's different issues for different people in different parts of the world. It's not a fair comparison. What is a fair comparison, though, is it's two people that could be assisted by their governments, their social safety nets that are supposed to be there, and they're being failed by them. That's the common factor. Not assigning personal accountability to systemic issues. No. And it's okay to not be grateful for struggles. It's okay to be angry about being failed, because that's the fuel for wrathful compassion, right as the clock chimes. Getting mad about how you've been treated, how you've been wronged. The caution, though, is that you're not going after yourself in that you're not just projecting your shadow all over everything, and you're not seeing the situation for what it is. That day that you have that bone from the butcher, getting to the other side of the footbridge might be the thing to do that day. And then someday you'll get to the cornucopia. It's unfair that you have to wait so long when people who are abusive and take advantage of the system, they get breaks and support and whole mobs of people on their side. Ace of Hearts in reverse. The Holy Grail. No love here. This is like, this was not the prize. Going after this person was not the prize. And kind of getting the sense that it unleashed some things. Because now it's going to call this whole group into question, which needed to happen, clearly. Because how long have they been doing this or something similar that it emboldened them to act like this at all? I don't see this as a first time, oh, they suddenly, something overcame them, like the full moon overcame them and they turned into a werewolf. No. These are people who made choices with no love in their heart. No love in their heart for their fellow person who's just struggling to get by on this earth. Who maybe they didn't even get the full story from that other person, but they came after them nonetheless. That will never lead to the Holy Grail. What an unkind thing to do. And to watch happen. Because those are enablers too. The people that sat by, that could have done something and didn't. Even just saying something, that they know something is going on. Because I know they would want somebody to speak up for them. But then they had the opportunity to do that for someone else, and they didn't. And then this will be judgment for them. We've got 10 of Hearts in reverse and the World in reverse. They're in for some real consequences. Because the World in reverse is a cycle that hasn't ended or isn't ending. And 10 of Hearts, that's 10 of Cups in reverse. So that's like the destruction of the happy family that people have worked for. You know what I was mentioning, that this would destroy marriages. But this is also a pot of gold. The reference to that, to luck. Talking about the horseshoe earlier. They're in for some bad luck and it's not going to end. Treating somebody like this, treating somebody to the point where they're trying to drive them to self-delete, their luck has run out. And that's what they deserve. They deserve for their luck to run out, to be seen for their actions, for the choices that they made, that they're going to try and wriggle their way out of. They don't get to do that. No matter how hard they try. And that's what's important about filing reports and things like that. As trivial as it may sound, it does create a paper trail. And that paper trail, it's a foundation in building a picture that shows a pattern of behavior. Because unfortunately, when you speak up about what's happening to you, you will be guilty until proven innocent. That's just the way the system functions. That's not how it's supposed to function, allegedly. But we see every day who the system benefits and who it's a detriment to. I still believe that there are some good people around. That's just the eternal optimist in me, and I refuse to believe anything is too big to fail. Because if it's hurting people, then the solution is the people. To go against it, to say this isn't right, and to do something about it. I prefer the peaceful means myself, which is what administrative is. But people will turn a diplomatic approach into something violent, because interfering with someone's finances is violence. Bullying someone is violence. Trying to drive someone to self-harm, that's also violence. And it paints a pretty stark picture about everyone involved. Because in most cases, like if you look at the likelihood of who's involved, the person speaking up, that's going to be the marginalized person. That's going to be the vulnerable person that's already at a disadvantage, that's already been disenfranchised. And people that are dogpiling on them, that are bullying them, trying to do anything and everything to destroy this person, they're the people with power. They're the people that have been given license to rule over other people's lives. And I think that, I would hope that would inspire some reflection in people, some introspection of who are we putting in power? Are we screening them well enough? Spoiler alert, no. They have absolute power over people's lives like a king. And that's not how we do things here. Except we do. We have failed our people to the point of modern day serfs. And I'm disgusted by it myself. And that's why I talk about these different behaviors and whatnot. It's not fair that the burden falls on us to resolve these issues. And it is what it is. That's why wrathful compassion is so so helpful in so many cases. Oh, there's two. Two of my favorites, actually. WandaVision and Princess Mononoke. Both very good views into the other, into women who have been failed by the system, by who they were supposed to be able to depend on. And very emotional. WandaVision, actually both of these were pieces of media that came out exactly when I needed them in my life. I used to go to these, what were they called? Starfests, the Star Trek conventions when I was younger. And there was a certain point where the guys dressed up like Klingons chasing young girls around where it got creepy. And for me, that was right around when Princess Mononoke came out. And I ducked into the anime room, not knowing what was playing, just to try and get away from a couple of those Klingon guys. And Princess Mononoke was on, and been my favorite movie ever since. What I needed right at the time. And I've watched it a bunch of times, countless times. It's a ritual on my birthday to watch Princess Mononoke and ordering sushi, something like that. And WandaVision, too, came out right about when I needed it. Because it was pretty close to when I got diagnosed with PTSD. And seeing just the storytelling of trauma in the context of Wanda, it helped me reach some emotions that I wasn't able to get to, and actually catalyze them and access some tears that I hadn't been able to access in years. It's amazing to me when pieces of media or songs, movies, books, whatever, they come out at just the right time in your life, have such a long lasting impact on you. I don't know. Warms my Irish heart. So either of these, maybe you want to watch for the first time, watch again, or whatever movie, show, what have you, that is that special. I needed that just at that time. Maybe it's time for a movie night, something like that. So overall, I hope this helps. Another that I hope it doesn't resonate. I hope nobody's getting bullied like this. But if you are, I hope you found something helpful, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.